Hello friends, welcome back to Learning Nails and Aesthetics. Don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe, and check out my other videos, the Milady Nails book, as well as the Milady Aesthetics book, and the fun things too. Testing the polishes of various brands, some Temu unboxing, all the fun things. Don't forget, I am not AI. Mistakes will be made. Just laugh along with me. This series of videos highlights the major points of each chapter in the Milady Standards Foundation book. This is Chapter 5, Infection Control. If you have not read the book or watched the videos of me reading the book in its entirety, you should do so and consider this as a basic introduction. If you have, it is a good reminder of its contents. This is not a substitute for the entire book. I will not be flipping through the pages as I have painstakingly compiled the information. That being said, let's get started. State boards and other regulatory agencies require that infection control measures and safe work practices be applied while servicing the public. Infection control refers to the methods used to eliminate or reduce the transmission of infectious organisms from one individual to another. Since transmission can also occur when using contaminated implements, tools, or equipment, the performance of effective infection control procedures must be top priority in the salon, spa, or barbershop. The terms cleansing, sanitizing, disinfecting, and sterilizing need to be properly differentiated. Cleaning is a mechanical process using soap and water or detergent and water to remove all visible dirt, debris, and many disease-causing germs. Cleaning also removes invisible debris that interferes with disinfection. Sanitizing is a chemical process for reducing the number of disease-causing germs on clean surfaces to a safe level. Infection control professionals consider sanitation to be a layperson's term or a product marketing term, as in hand sanitizers, preferring cleaning to describe the step before disinfecting. Disinfecting is a chemical process for use with non-porous items that use specific products to destroy harmful organisms, including bacteria, viruses, and fungi, except bacterial spores, on implements and environmental surfaces. Sterilizing is the process that destroys all microbial life, including spores, generally with the use of an autoclave. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, was created as part of the U.S. Department of Labor to regulate and enforce safety and health standards to protect employees in the workplace. The standards set by OSHA are important to beauty professionals because of the products they use daily. OSHA standards address issues relating to the handling, mixing, storing, and disposing of products, generally safety in the workplace, and your right to know about any potentially hazardous ingredients contained in the products and how to avoid these hazards. OSHA does this in part by requiring that chemical manufacturers and importers assess and communicate the potential hazards associated with their products through a safety data sheet, referred to as an SDS. An SDS is the 16-category standard format document that replaces the previously mandated MSDS or PSDS. The Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, registers all types of disinfectants sold and used in the United States. Disinfectants are chemical products that destroy most bacteria, excluding spores, fungi, and viruses on surfaces. It is against federal law to use any disinfecting product in a way contrary to its indication on its label. Before manufacturers can sell a product for disinfecting services, tools, implements, or equipment, they must obtain an EPA registration number, indicated on a product label by EPA regulation number near the manufacturer's name, that certifies that the disinfectant, when used correctly, will be effective against the pathogens listed on the label. For example, clipper disinfectants may be approved by the EPA for use with clippers in specific environments, such as a barber shop, or the manufacturer would be breaking federal law by marketing them as a clipper disinfectant to the barber market. This also means that if you do not follow the label instructions for mixing, contact time, and the type of surface the disinfectant product can be used on, you are not complying with federal law. If there were an inquiry concerning an injury-related lawsuit, you could be held responsible. State regulatory agencies exist to protect beauty professionals and their customers. State regulatory agencies include licensing agencies, state boards, commissions, and health departments. Regulatory agencies require that everyone work with a client in a salon, spa, and barbershop follow specific procedures. Enforcement of the rules through inspections and investigations of consumer complaints is also part of the agency's responsibility. An agency can issue penalties against both owners and the beauty professional. Penalties vary and include warnings, fines, probation, and suspension or revocation of your license. That means they can take it away. It is vital that you understand and follow the law and rules of your state at all times. Your professional reputation, your license, and your client's safety depend on it. Laws are written by both federal and state legislatures to determine the scope of practice and establish guidelines for regulatory agencies to make rules. Laws are also called statutes. Rules and regulations are more specific than laws. The regulatory agency or the state board writes the rules and determines how the law must be applied. Rules establish specific standards of conduct and can be changed or updated frequently. It is the beauty professional's responsibility to be aware of any changes to the rules and regulations and to comply with them. Ignorance of the law is not an acceptable reason or excuse for noncompliance. Beauty professionals are not allowed to treat or recommend treatment for infection, diseases, or abnormal conditions. Clients with such problems should be referred to a physician. Being a beauty professional is a great responsibility. One careless action could cause injury or spread disease, which is any abnormal condition of all or part of the body, its systems, or its organs that make the body incapable of carrying on normal function. If your actions hurt a client or make them ill, you could lose your license or ruin your salon, spa, or barbershop's reputation. Effective infection control also influences the professional image of your establishment. A client's first impression begins the moment the door opens. All the signs, sounds, smells, and textures of the salon, spa, or barbershop meld together to form the first impression, regardless of the number of times a client has previously visited. A clean and orderly business helps build client confidence and trust. Direct transmission is the transmission of pathogens through touching, kissing, coughing, sneezing, and talking. If you fail to wash your hands after each handshake, You risk infecting all of your customers as well as yourself. Indirect transmission occurs through contact with an intermediate contaminated object such as a razor, extractor, nipper, or an environmental surface upon which a pathogen resides. Doorknobs, phones, food preparation surfaces, or your implements. Respiratory droplets and airborne transmissions are similar in that the transmission occurs when a pathogen living in our respiratory tract is expelled through coughing, sneezing, or even talking. The difference between the two is that the respiratory droplets are large particles that do not stay suspended in the air for long. In airborne transmission, the particles are much smaller and drier, so they hang in the air longer, allowing for the pathogen to spread further. At a minimum, disinfectants used in salons, spas, and barbershops must be capable of destroying bacteria, capable of destroying viruses, capable of destroying molds and fungi. You should know how to look for specific things on the label of any product you use for disinfection. The list of pathogens against which it is effective should include HIV, HBV, and MRSA. The disinfectant will kill other lesser bacteria. EPA registration number, the words bacterial, virucidal, and fungicidal, mixing and changing instructions. Be sure to mix and use these disinfectants according to the instructions on the label so they are safe and effective. In some states, disinfectants may still need to be effective against tuberculosis. Check out your state board rules and regulations for compliance information. Eliminate pathogens through the proper hand washing, cleaning, and disinfecting. Clean and disinfect tools and equipment after every surface. Keep your skin intact to reduce portals of entry for bacteria. Wear gloves when working with chemicals. Use lotion to reduce skin drying and cracking and cover open wounds. Be prepared to turn away clients who show signs of illness. Remember, you are not licensed to diagnose illness or infection. Refer ill patients to their doctor for a proper diagnosis and treatment regimen. It is important to think about your personal habits in terms of how they might increase or decrease the risk of transmitting illness. Cleaning and disinfection are all ways in which you can personally combat the spread of disease and safeguard your health and that of your clients. Contamination is the presence of the reasonably Contamination is the presence or the reasonably anticipated presence of blood or other potentially infectious material on an item's surface, or visible debris or residue such as dust, hair, and skin. Decontamination is the removal of blood or other potentially infectious material on an item's surface and the removal of visible debris or residue such as dust, hair, and skin. Diagnosis is the determination of the nature of a disease from its symptoms and or diagnostic tests. Federal regulations prohibit salon professionals from performing a diagnosis. Germs, non-scientific synonyms for disease-producing organisms. Occupational disease, illness resulting from conditions associated with employment, such as prolonged and repeated overexposure to certain products or ingredients. Parasitic disease is caused by parasites such as lice and mites. Pathogenic disease is produced by organisms such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. Toxins, various poisonous substances, produced by some microorganisms, bacteria, and viruses. When it comes to preventing the spread of infectious disease, you must understand and be prepared to deal with 5 typically potential harmful organisms: bacteria, viruses, fungi, parasites, and biofilm. Bacteria, singular. Bacterium are single-celled microorganisms that have both plant and animal characteristics. A microorganism is an organism of microscopic or submicroscopic size. Some bacteria are harmful, while others are harmless. Non-pathogenic are harmless organisms that may perform useful functions. They are safe to come into contact with since they do not cause disease or harm. Pathogenic bacteria are harmful microorganisms that can cause disease or infection in humans when they invade the body. Inflammation is a condition in which the tissue of the body reacts to injury, irritation, or infection and is characterized by redness, heat, pain, and or swelling. Pus is a fluid containing white blood cells, bacteria, and dead cells, and is the byproduct of the infectious process. The presence of pus is a sign of a bacterial infection. A local infection, such as a pimple or abscess, is confined to a particular part of the body and appears as a lesion containing pus. A systemic infection is an infection where the pathogen has spread throughout the body rather than staying in one area or organ. Staphylococci are among the most common bacteria that affect humans and can be very dangerous as it is responsible for food poisoning and a wide range of diseases, including toxic shock syndrome and some flesh-eating diseases. Some types of infectious staph bacteria are highly resistant to conventional treatments such as antibiotics. Clients who appear completely healthy may bring the organism with them, where they can affect others. MRSA initially appears as a skin infection, resulting in pimples, rashes, or boils that can be difficult to cure. Without proper treatment, the infection becomes systemic and can have devastating consequences, even resulting in death. Mycobacterium is a large family of bacteria that is often found in soil and water, disfiguring infections associated particularly with pedicure bowls. Because this bacterium may be present in your water supply, it is important to protect your clients by properly disinfecting all the implements and bowls. It is also important that both you and your client keep your skin intact and protected. Avoid cracked skin by using lotions frequently, particularly in the winter months. Advise clients not to shave or wax their legs 24 hours prior to a pedicure. A virus is a microscopic particle that infects and resides in the cell of a biological organism and is capable of replication only through taking over the host cell's reproductive function. They cause common colds and other respiratory and gastrointestinal infections. One difference between viruses and bacteria is that a virus can live and reproduce only by taking over other cells and becoming part of them, while bacteria can live and reproduce on their own. Another difference is that while bacterial infections can usually be treated with a specific antibiotic, viral infections cannot. Also, viruses are hard to kill without harming the host cells in the process. Human papillomavirus and herpes simplex virus are 2 highly contagious viruses that can be transmitted both directly and indirectly and can be spread through skin-to-skin contact and are often thought of as sexually transmitted diseases. Disease-causing microorganisms that are carried in the body by blood or body fluids, such as hepatitis and HIV, are called blood-borne pathogens. Hepatitis is a blood-borne virus that causes disease and can damage the liver. The human immunodeficiency virus, abbreviated HIV, causes acquired immune deficiency syndrome, abbreviated AIDS, and is a disease that breaks down the body's immune system. It is spread from person to person through blood and less often through other body fluids such as semen and vaginal secretions. Fungi, singular fungus, are single-celled organisms that grow in irregular masses that include mold, mildew, and yeast. They can produce contagious diseases such as ringworm. Tina barbae, also known as barber's itch, presents as deeply inflamed patches of skin on the face or the nape of the neck. It is similar to Tina capitis, a fungal infection of the scalp characterized by red papules or spots at the opening of hair follicles. Ringworm, a fungal infection of the skin, appears in circular lesions, is another fungus that may contraindicate a beauty surface. Pathogenic bacteria, viruses, or fungi can enter the body through the following routes. Broken or inflamed skin, such as a cut or a scratch or a bruise, which is weakened tissue, or a rash, but not through intact skin, which is an effective barrier to infection. Through your mouth by contaminated water, food, fingers, or objects. Inhaling infectious dust or droplets from a cough or sneeze. Eyes and ears, organisms that reside in water that are commonly transmitted when the person is swimming. Genitals, unprotected sex. The body prevents and controls infection through healthy, uncompromised skin, the body's first line of defense. Body secretions such as perspiration and digestive juices, white blood cells that destroy bacteria, antioxidants that counteract toxins, various poisonous substances produced by some microorganisms, such as bacteria and viruses. Parasites are organisms that grow, feed, and shelter on or inside another organism, which is referred to as a host, while contributing nothing to the survival of that organism. They must have a host to survive. External parasites that affect humans by way of the skin include ticks, lice, fleas, and mites. Services should never be performed on a client with visible signs of a parasitic infection. Head lice are a type of parasite responsible for contagious disease and conditions such as pediculosis. Scabies is a contagious skin disease caused by the itch mite, which burrows under the skin. Contaminated countertops, tools, and equipment should be thoroughly cleaned and then disinfected with the EPA-registered disinfectant for the time recommended by the manufacturer, or with a bleach solution for 10 minutes. Biofilms are colonies of microorganisms that adhere to environmental surfaces, as well as the human body. They secrete a sticky, hard-to-penetrate, protective coating that cements them together. The biofilm grows into a complex structure with many kinds of microbes. Foot spas can harbor biofilm and require extra attention, especially the piped models. Proper infection control requires 2 steps: cleaning and then disinfecting with an appropriate EPA-registered disinfectant. Sterilization, which is the process that destroys all microbial life, including spores, can be incorporated but is rarely mandated. Effective sterilization typically requires the use of an autoclave, a piece of equipment that incorporates heat and pressure. For sterilization to be effective, it must be cleaned prior to the use, and the autoclave must be tested and maintained as instructed in the manufacturer's specifications. The first step in infection control is cleaning. A surface must be properly cleaned before it can be properly disinfected. Do not underestimate proper cleaning and hand washing. They are the most powerful and important ways to prevent the spread of infection. Read labels carefully. Manufacturers take great care in developing safe and highly effective products. When used improperly, many products that are antibacterial and antimicrobial wait a minute, I skipped a line. However, when used improperly, many products that are otherwise safe can be rendered dangerous if you do not follow proper guidelines and directions exactly as the label instructs. Antibacterial and antimicrobial soaps have been under scrutiny of the FDA since 2014. In 2016, many of the chemicals used in these soaps were banned. The true benefit of hand washing comes from the friction created by the soap bubbles that works to pull the pathogens off of the skin's surface. Antiseptics are chemical germicide formulas for use on skin and are registered and regulated by the Food and Drug Administration. Antiseptics generally contain a high volume of alcohol and are intended to reduce the numbers and slow the growth of microbes on the skin. Hydrogen peroxide is generally used at a 3% strength and works well as an antiseptic. However, it should never be used on an open cut as it destroys the cells that begin the healing process in a wound. Isopropyl alcohol is effective in cleaning the skin. However, it can be very drying and cause irritation of the skin. Alcohol is not a disinfectant for surfaces or implements and should be used only as a cleaner or antiseptic. Disinfection is the process that eliminates most, but not necessarily all, microorganisms on non-porous surfaces. This process, however, is not effective against bacterial spores. A disinfectant used in the shop must carry an EPA registration number, and the label should clearly state the specific organisms the solution is effective against when used according to the manufacturer's product instruction. You must read and follow the manufacturer's instructions whenever you are using a disinfectant. Mixing ratios and contact time are very important and can vary widely based on the manufacturer and delivery method. Disinfectants must have efficacy claims on the label. Implements must be thoroughly cleaned of all visible matter or residue before being placed in a disinfectant solution. This is because residue will interfere with the disinfectant and prevent proper disinfection. Properly cleaning implements and tools, free from all visible debris, must be completely immersed in disinfection solution. Quaternary ammonium compounds, also known as quats, are disinfectants that are very effective when used properly on non-porous surfaces. Disinfectants are proven to kill the bacterium that cause tuberculosis, in addition to other pathogens destroyed through the use of hospital disinfectants. Phenolic disinfectants are a powerful disinfectant and a form of formaldehyde, have a very high pH, and can damage the skin and eyes. Bleach must have an EPA registration number and contain at least 5% sodium hypochlorite and be diluted properly to a 10% solution, 9 parts water to 1 part bleach. A fresh bleach solution should be mixed every 24 hours or when the solution has been contaminated. Mix all disinfectants according to directions, always adding the disinfectant to the water, not the water to the disinfectant. Follow the manufacturer's instructions for using and disposing of disinfectants. Chelating soaps work to break down stubborn films and remove the residue of products such as scrubs, salts, and masks, and work in all types of water. They are low sudsing and specifically formulated to work in areas with hard tap water. Hard tap water reduces the effectiveness of cleaners and disinfectants. If your area has hard water, ask your local distributor for soaps that are effective in hard water. This information will be stated on the product's label. Follow standard precautions to protect yourself and your clients. Standard precautions, SP, are guidelines published by the CDC that are required to assume that any human blood and body fluids are potentially infectious. In many instances, clients who are just getting sick or are long-term viral carriers are asymptomatic, meaning that they show no symptoms or signs of infection. OSHA and the CDC have set safety standards and precautions that protect employees in situations when they could be exposed to blood-borne pathogens. Precautions include proper hand washing, wearing of gloves, and proper handling and disposing of sharp instruments and any other item that may have been contaminated by blood or body fluids. OSHA defines PPE as specialized clothing or equipment worn by an employee for protection against a hazard. The hazards this particular standard refers to are blood-borne pathogens such as hepatitis and HIV. However, beauty professionals are required to prevent their occupational exposure to any amount of blood, no matter how minuscule, through the use of gloves, masks, and eye protection. The technician is to perform hand washing after removing each set of gloves and before putting on new set when 2 services are being performed together, or use antimicrobial gel cleanser between sets of gloves during the same appointment. An exposure incident is contact with non-intact, which is broken skin, blood, body fluid, or other potential infectious material that is a result of the performance of a worker's duties. Demonstrate safe work practices and safety precautions. At the shampoo bowl, position the client's head for comfort and access, being conscious of your own body position as well. Do not bend or twist from the waist unnecessarily. Wipe up any water spills or leaks immediately. If the water temperature reaches a scalding level while in the hot position, turn the thermostat or the hot water tank down to a more acceptable temperature for application to the skin, scalp, and hair. Water heaters should not be set at higher than 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Tools and equipment should be strategically placed so that items are safely stored when not in use, yet accessible when needed. Disinfecting jars should be set back towards the wall or partition so as not to interfere with other tools. If a tool or implement is dropped on the floor during a service, it must be replaced with a disinfected tool, or you must stop the surface and properly disinfect the tool that was dropped prior to continuing the service. All tools and implements should be in good working condition. Replace damaged tools immediately. Never place any tools or implements in your mouth or pocket. Keep all chairs, headrests, tables, heat lamps and lighting fixtures in good working order. Tighten screws and bolts, grease or oil hinges, and service equipment mechanisms as needed. Dust and clean regularly to avoid dust buildup and to maintain clean conditions. Proper ventilation and air circulation are extremely important. Particles from products such as hairsprays and disinfectants can be inhaled and may cause allergic reactions or other health problems. Vents should be vacuumed or cleaned periodically to prevent any buildup of hair that might impede ventilation. Fumes require sophisticated filtration units that cleanse and detoxify the air. Once installed, air filters should be changed or cleaned regularly. Employees should know where I don't know where that came from. Employees should know where exits are located and how to evacuate the building quickly in case of fire or other emergencies. Implement fire drills to practice for this contingency. Fire extinguishers should be placed where they are readily accessible. All employees should be instructed in fire extinguisher use. It is a law that fire extinguishers be checked periodically. Post notices in the reception area advising patrons that children are not to be left unattended. When performing a service on a child, try to anticipate the child's sudden moves. Never trust a young child to hold their head or body still while you are wielding tools. Instead, hold the child gently but firmly with one hand while working with the other. Clients with diabetes have weaker immune systems and impaired healing. A simple nick from a tool that was not properly disinfected may have devastating effects. Mastectomy patients have had nodes removed. Any infectious process in that arm could lead to a permanent condition called lymphedema. It is extremely important to these clients that properly disinfected implements be used, particularly in a nail surface, to reduce the risk of this very uncomfortable condition. Clients on medication for conditions such as asthma, rheumatoid arthritis, and fibromyalgia are likely to have suppressed immune systems, making them particularly susceptible to infection. Clients who are pregnant must decide for themselves what is safe for the baby during pregnancy. Allow a client to read the labels of products prior to using them to help them decide. Pregnant clients should not use anything with salicylic acid, which is sometimes listed as willow bark. It can cause serious problems. So again, to reiterate, this series of videos highlights the major points of each chapter in the Milady Standards Foundation book. This was Chapter 5, Infection Control. If you have not read the book or watched the videos of me reading it in its entirety, you should do so and consider this as a basic introduction. If you have, it is a good reminder of its content. It is not a substitute for the entire book. So, with that in mind, don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe, and check out my other videos, the Milady Aesthetics book, as well as the Milady Nail book, and then all the other fun things too. I hope this was helpful to you. Have a great day. I appreciate you watching. Thanks. Bye.